Right, let's not get a fright. Okay, let's not get a fright. I was still setting up. Going to show you all a little trick. It's quite genius, I think. Anyway, grab yourself a sticky note. I don't have one. So I'm grabbing a piece of paper. Most probably way too large, so let's just fold it in half. Most probably still too big. Doesn't matter, we're working with what we have. Grab a pen, whatever. These are the magic words that you get to write down on your sticky note or piece of paper. You just go approved. Right, what do we have? What are the words? You're most probably not going to be seeing them the right way around, but I will interpret for you. It says approved wacky hair day. Now, if you were able to use a sticky note, grab your calendar. If not, so what do? Sellotape, I have masking tape on hand. You pull a piecey off. You whack it around to like a little noodle looking thing so it's sticking on itself. You take your piece of paper, because we didn't have a note, a post-it, right? Stick it on the back of your piece of paper. There we go. You grab yourself your calendar. This one will do. There we go. And it's approved wacky hair day. You know what's so fabulous about having it on a post-it, or, you know, our homemade post-it, is you stick it where you need it, and that's it. You are approved for a wacky hair day. Now, my wacky hair day, this is premium hair. This is premium towel dried hair. Why? Because we don't have power again. And actually, I'm getting quite fed up with and actually, I'm trying not to feel despondent or depressed or any of those, you know, blue feeling notes of adjectives, explaining why we don't have power. This has got nothing to do with the weather. This has got nothing to do with, you know, whatever could naturally take your power away. This is just infrastructure. It's a situation. We've been dealing with it for a very long time. It's not right. It's not normal. Life goes on. So, welcome to G Crochet Off the Hook. I'm Geraldine, and this is my little crochet nook. And this is my little crafting nook. We have no lighting at the moment. What I have is some very cold, cloudy skies behind me, and that's what we have to work with. So we're going to enjoy what we have. Today is an update on my knitting adventures. So come along, let's see what I got up to. Right, so what have I got knitted up for this week's knit adventures? There are 2 washcloths, and I did manage to complete a second knit beanie. Let's start with the washcloths. Now, these washcloths I am doing with Jana K from Leave It to Stitches. And the very first washcloth that I have to share with you was very apt with the title that Jana K had, which was No Pain, No Gain. And I am a little bit shy to show how small this project turned out, because on a photograph it can look rather lovely, but it was a very small, I think I'm going to call this like a little face scrubby, maybe, and not quite a washcloth. But the stitch that we had, the very next knit washcloth that we did together, is called the Daisy knit stitch. Now, this is a very small sample of the Daisy knit stitch. I shall take cheer out of the things that I know were done correctly, which is still improving to put a border on the side of these little cloths and to finish it off with a little loop. But the actual stitch was rather painful on a number of fronts to complete. So I am happy that I was able to accomplish the stitch, but I don't believe that this is one that I will visit anytime soon or perhaps ever again. Now, it is a beautiful stitch, and I would love to have been able to do a full washcloth. However, I did find it a little bit too challenging for my skills. One of them being I'm sort of only comfortable using a 5mm and a 6mm knitting needle. And I have also discovered as I've made these washcloths that even though I'm using a beautifully premium pure cotton, that's a DK, I need to knit with 2 strands held together. Now, trying to do the daisy stitch holding 2 strands together, and you had to work back into a stitch doing the purl stitch, it was quite a challenge. So at the end of the day, what I used was my 5mm knitting needle, and I used some cotton from Al Saprotex cotton yarn. It's a 100% virgin cotton. It's beautiful and soft. It actually recommends a 3.5 to 4mm knitting needle, which I did purchase one, but I cannot use a 4mm. So this particular little cloth has been made using just a single strand with a 5mm, which is maybe why it's a little bit holy for sure. But that was the only way I was able to actually complete doing that stitch that was required to present the daisy knit stitch. So I'm quite happy that I was able to complete it, and I was a little bit fearful of what was next on the list, because I thought, I think I've reached the end of the skill that I'm at to knit washcloths. Fortunately, the very next washcloth that we've just had now is called the Knit Garter Cubes stitch, and I was able to use my 5mm knitting needle and 2 strands of Kismet's Reisha held together, and I used this lovely remember, we're not working with great lighting here right now, guys, but I was able to use this lovely soft yellow and sort of like a very light brown color, taupe sort of color. And oh my gosh, fell in love with knitting and being able to learn to do the stitches and put them together in a sequence all over again. So my daisy face scrubby, if I can put it that way, you know, will be used and loved, but this one was absolutely a treat. And again, these aren't blocked or anything. I cannot believe how straight the knitting comes out. I did manage to knit a border on the top and the bottom that you can actually see there's a border. And then this beautiful little block pattern in the middle. But wait, because this one, I think, sort of gave us a double whammy wow. Because if you turn it around, just look at that. I actually can't believe that this came off a knitting needle that I held in my hands. Sometimes if you just keep going, you are able to produce something really beautiful. And even though this particular one had a 4-row repeat, so it required a large amount of concentration from my side. I was so happy to see that in one of my crochet little kits where you get crochet hooks and what have you, I came across these, which I never really knew what to do with. And it's those little plastic, mine's plastic, it came in one of those little kits, where you can actually turn the little wheel on the side and keep track of your rows. Never needed something like this with crochet, but I must say with knitting, and this being this last, the garter cube stitch being a 4-row repeat for me, I just had this in my lap and I was able to go 1, complete, 2, complete, 3, 4, complete, back down to 0. And I really do think that this little gadget, that fortunately I didn't throw away, I was able to use to make sure that I was getting all 4 of my little rows in before I completed the next section. Also in those little crochet pouches, I did have one of these because I know there's all sorts of fancy accessories for knitting, but anyway, I had one of these from the kit, and where I found these little row counters, I did find another one. So I'm feeling a lot more secure when I do put down my knitting that I have 2 little stoppers that I can put on each side of the knitting needles now. One's a little bit big, one's a little bit small. So there were quite a few little treasure wins for me during the course of the week. And that brings me to the last knit project that I was able to complete. And for this one, similarly to the first knit beanie that I got off, the knitting needles, I was using that Charity Chunky. This is that dark cherry. This is all I have left of it. For this particular beanie, I was holding 2 strands of this together, even though it's a chunky. And I was using a 6mm knitting needle. Now, this is another wonderfully beginner-friendly tutorial from Fiber Flux Knitting, and it's the Beginner's Knit Beanie. And there we go. I always leave my stitch marker in there until I've showed you, just so that I know where I actually started. So this particular beanie has an oopsie in it, but I don't think it turned out too bad. Our lighting's not going to really show us, but this one was teaching me how to do, it was 2 knit, 2 back, 2 purl, rib at the bottom, and then the rest of this beanie was is all just a knit stitch, which I was looking forward to. But I think there's more to learn with knitting and the yarn that you actually use and the hook size. So I might have to invest in 1 or 2 more larger size knitting needles, because this is quite a tight beanie. It does have a lovely stretch to it, but it's pretty tight. Now, so where was the blupsy? So I was so excited that I had got this ribbing section done, and off I went, and I immediately started with the knit. And for whatever reason, my brain kicked back after just, I think, after 3 rounds. I was so invested in concentrating in doing more of the ribbing. So I did another 3 rounds of the ribbing before I realized, hold on, we don't need to work on the pattern anymore. We can just knit around and around and around. So it's kind of given it a little bit of extra texture, if I can put it that way, over here. It doesn't look bad unless I told somebody who knits, they would think, okay, what happened there? But I think it just gave the beanie a little bit of extra something special, handmade speciality of an oopsie. And then also we did a handmade pom-pom on the top. And that's completed my second knit beanie. Now, I wanted to say, I know sometimes this particular pom-pom, because it was very chunky yarn, I did just use my hands to make it. And Fiber Flux actually shows you as well, it's the way we would normally make a pom-pom. When I secure these handmade pom-poms though, you will have your two strands of your pom-pom that you will pull through to the other side, which I do. You can't even tell, but you pull it through. I've knotted it, knowing me, most probably 3 times. And then I don't cut it off though. What I do is I usually leave very long tails. I will take the first of the very long tail and I'll use my teddy bear needle. Do I have one here? Yes. I will take my very long teddy bear needle and I'll take the very first strand and I'll go just a stitch or two over. I'm going to try and do it even without and then I come straight back up, straight through the pom-pom over here. I'll pull it all the way through. Of course, this won't have a piece of yarn on it, but I'll pull it all the way through. And then I'll choose another spot in the pom-pom on the side, and I'll get that needle coming all the way back through to another spot at the bottom here and pull it tight. Now, I have done that numerous times, and you can't see that you've had a piece of thread coming in and back out because you put it in tight. It gets hidden in over here. It knots on itself. I will do that with this piece and the other piece. And then for the very last hurrah of attaching this pom-pom, I will go back one last time all the way through with the one and then the other one, and they'll be both sticking out here on the top, and you can yank on it just like I can with this pom-pom. This pom-pom doesn't even wobble or move or go anywhere, and I will cut it off in the same direction as what these are, and your pom-pom is highly secured at that point. And usually somebody's not tugging there. Let me just put this weapon of destruction out of my way. Usually somebody is not tugging on the pom-pom going down. If somebody's going to grab a pom-pom, they're going to do this. And with those tails having wrapped around the pom-pom, gone down, wrapped around again, come up, yanked up on this side, and then cut off, they're not going to come undone. So that is something that I've done for a very long time with my handmade pom-poms. And as you can see, because even if you were using a different colored yarn, it just cinches itself back in. You don't even know that you've wrapped around that pom-pom through the inside and then back up through the top. So that was my little pom-pom tip that I got to use on this knit beanie. And that's it, folks. Those are the knitting adventures. I am going to try and get this video onto my laptop for however long that has power. Like I said, we are grateful for everything that we have every day. And depending on what it is that you need to do, don't forget, it's quite all right to give yourself a little approved sticky note for any situation, really. And today mine will be approved wacky hair day, and I'll own it and I'll enjoy it, and I'm off for some more crafting. I hope you have a splendid time yourselves. Bye for now.